Hey besties, welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Zora and I make movie and TV show commentary videos every single Saturday. Last week's video was a season 1 commentary on Invincible, and today I'm going to be talking about the pilot episode of the Vampire Diaries. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss a single upload. Now let's get into the show's history. So the Vampire Diaries first aired in 2009 and it ran for 8 seasons. And when I tell you I avoided this show like the plague, I am not kidding. Like, you remember when it was kind of like a personality trait to like hate on Twilight? So I was kind of like that because I was also such a huge Harry Potter fangirl. So I didn't have any like time to be obsessed with anything else. And so I associated everything vampire related to being related to Twilight. And I was like, no, I'm not going to watch this. It's just like a bootleg Twilight. And my best friends loved this show. And so they were trying to get me to watch it. And I was like, no. But I think I caved in and ended up watching it like late middle school, early high school. And like, I think that's like my first like hate watch because I just wanted to make sure it ended. Like I wanted to like watch it end just to know that it was over. But I didn't even get that far. I didn't even finish the show. I think I got somewhere in season 8, the last season. It was like, I don't know how I pushed through this far, but I have. But it's like, I'll rewatch the first like 3 seasons. Everything up to after Klaus's arc, because Klaus's arc on the show as the villain was the best. So everything up to his story, I stopped watching. I also never finished the originals and I didn't start Legacies, I don't think. Yeah, I didn't watch Legacies either. So that's my history with the show. So let's get into the plot. So the show starts off with this like irrelevant couple getting attacked by a vampire, and we don't know who the vampire is just yet, but it will be revealed. And then like Stefan starts narrating, and like I completely forgot that there was like a narration element of it, or that the diaries were really a part of it in the beginning, because I'm pretty sure that they abandoned this like narration like diary thing either after this episode or soon after it. Like they just stopped doing it. So in his little narration, Stefan's talking about, oh, I needed to come back to see her, and we're like, oh my god, who is her? And it turns out to be Elena. Now, I don't think I've ever hated a protagonist like I hate Elena, but Elena, what's her last name? Gilbert. She's had a rough year, you know. Her parents had, before this pilot, had died in a car accident, and she was in the car with them when they died, and she was the only survivor. I think the accident happened either at like the end of the school year that previous year or during the summer, because you know she's trying to get back to normal, I guess, and she's like talking about how, you know, she's gonna put on a fake smile because, you know, like you have to act like you're okay and all this and all that. That is the only way I will give Elena sympathy, because everything else she's just I can't put my finger on it, but Elena is just that protagonist. But I will let it slide because her origin story is actually kind of really sad. We see Elena and her brother Jeremy getting ready for school, and we see Jenna. Jenna is their aunt who's like taking care of them, and like, rip Jenna, man. R.I.P. Jenna. Jenna was a real one. Not gonna lie. She didn't do nothing to nobody. She didn't deserve what she got, but I'm way ahead of myself. Jeremy's, you know, going through it. That's her like little brother, and he's just having a really hard time. And then Elena gets a ride to school from her best friend, Bonnie. Bonnie is the best character on the show. You're not gonna be able to convince me otherwise. She is the best, and she deserves so much better than what they gave her on the show and the way she was treated. But that's a whole other video I could get into. Bonnie over here talking about how her grandma said that, oh, we're witches and we descended from Salem, and like, you know, Bonnie is gonna be like the main witch of this show because it's all supernatural creatures. So like she's like the head witch of the show. So they're driving, right, and Bonnie does not have one eye on the road, and so they almost get into a car accident. And you know, that's kind of traumatizing for Elena because like that's how her parents died, and that was really messed up of them to do that to her, I'm not gonna lie. They almost got into a car accident because like a raven or a crow, I don't know, a blackbird like flew in front of their car. And I just want to know, like, let me know in the comments down below if they ever explained how, you know, who can control fog and birds. Like, I don't think they ever explained that. But that was just weird. And Bonnie talking about, oh, this year is gonna be great for you. You're gonna be so happy, da 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 da. Because she basically is telling Elena that like, oh, I think I can see the future and da 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 da. And she's saying it's gonna be a good year for Elena. I don't know why you would jinx it like that. Elena has not been able to rest one day in the past year, and she won't be able to rest until this show is over. So you set her up for failure with that. So when they're at the school, right, we see Matt, who is like the most boring character. Matt is more boring than Elena because during the entire series, he's the only one who stays human. And it's like, how did you get spared? Like, out of all people, you were the one who was spared. I have to digress. But basically, before her parents had died, Elena was dating Matt, but she broke up with Matt after they died. And, you know, Matt's kind of still, like, being a lost puppy. Like, he still wants her, and she's just not giving him the time of day. While they're in the hallway, we meet Caroline. And Caroline, in the beginning, was really their disposable friend. Like, she was their friend, but it was, like, you know, the real friendship was between Elena and Bonnie. I think Caroline had one of the best, like, she didn't have, like, a redemption arc, but she had one of the, like, the best likability arcs. Like, in the beginning, she was really annoying, but towards, like, the end, she wasn't that big of a deal, and she actually became just like it was just like, oh, Caroline's there, okay, that's fine. So like Caroline's asking all the obligatory questions like, oh, are you okay? I'm so glad you're okay, da, 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 da. So then we see Jeremy, and Jeremy's like behind the school dealing drugs to Vicky, and Vicky is Matt's sister. There's gonna be a lot of names thrown at you during this pilot. I am so sorry. They really just jam-packed a lot of people in this show. So Jeremy dealing drugs to Vicky, and like Jeremy obviously has feelings for Vicky, but Vicky is just not having it because Vicky's dating Tyler. Then we cut back to Elena and Bonnie, and there is what? A new boy at school. Who would have thought? So the new boy at school is Stefan Salvatore. Now, in the great battle between the two brothers of Damon and Stefan, this is an unpopular opinion, you're just gonna have to crucify me for it. I liked Elena and Stefan better, only because I like Damon either single or with another character, which I will get into later. But I liked their relationship more just because I think Stefan in a relationship is better than Damon in a relationship. But like, also neither of them deserve to go through what they went through because of Elena. Like, Elena did not deserve either one of them. So honestly, is the problem really the boys or is it Elena? Their lives would have been so much easier if Elena wasn't around, or if like the whole doppelganger situation wasn't a thing. Like, they'd be so much better. And they were like losing their minds over Elena. Really guys, like, we have to love ourselves more. We really do, because for what? For what? So then Elena sees her brother go into like the boys' bathroom, and she's like, he's on drugs. And so she goes in there and she's like just trying to like get on him, being like, you need to stop doing drugs, you need to stop dealing, da, 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 da. Are you stoned right now? You know that people aren't gonna be giving us that little like grace period anymore. You gotta start acting right. You need to deal with your stuff, all this and all that. Like, she was going in on him, and you know, Jeremy was like in one ear and out the other. He didn't really take any of it. But on the way out of the bathroom, she runs into Stefan and they bump into each other. Is it lust at first sight? Lust at first sight for Elena, I guess. You know, Stefan was already in love with her. But you know, they have their little like meet cute first exchange. Let me get into my conspiracy theory about Paul Wesley, the actor who plays Stefan. And you're just gonna have to walk with me here. You're just gonna have to walk with me. Ever since I saw this comparison, or I made the comparison in my head, I cannot unsee it. So I'm going to move over a little bit because I'm going to put my tweet up here of what I said. You cannot convince me that Paul Wesley and J. Cole don't look alike. Or at least related. Like, they look alike to me. And I don't know if it's the pictures that do it, but it's like Stefan in motion, like on the show, looks like J. Cole to me. And I can't unsee it. Like, if you like, this is so typical Hattie, but I'm so serious. They look alike to me. So basically, after their little meet cute, they have history class together, and you know they're thirsting over each other while the teacher's talking about the Confederacy. I'm so uncomfortable. So after school, Elena goes to the cemetery and like writes in her diary, and she sits at her parents' grave. And then while she's there, it's the whole Fog and Crow slash Raven show, and she just like starts bolting because it's creepy and it's weird. And then at the cemetery while she's running, she trips. And Elena really is the epitome of the scary movie girl who falls over nothing, because that's literally what she does in this pilot. And then after she falls and gets up, she runs into Stefan, which is also weird. Like, I don't understand why she didn't think this was weird that she's running into this dude in a cemetery of all places. So they're trying to have a conversation like it's normal. And then like Stefan's kind of like freaking out a little bit because he can sense that Elena got hurt and she's bleeding. And so like she like lifts up her pant leg and she is bleeding. And so you know, Stefan starts, you know, kind of going a little feral, and he like disappears because he can't be around blood because he's a vampire. He's a vampire who doesn't eat humans. And later on in the show, we find out that he can't eat humans because he's a ripper. It's a long story, man. It's a long, this show is just so long. He talked about in his little narration that he can't resist her. You don't know her. You think you know her because of Catherine, but I'll get into that when we see Catherine for the first time in this pilot. So the little side plot is that Jeremy and Vicky have hooked up, and like Jeremy just like hasn't gotten over it yet. I'm gonna need to check how old Vicky is because this relationship was a little inappropriate. And so it's like night now, and Elena's getting ready to go to, I think it's the Grill. That's their little like town restaurant. And Stefan pops up at her door. And I have a question if you live in a small town, because is it normal for like other people in the town or like everyone to just know your address? Because Elena had asked Stefan like, how did you find my address? And Stefan was like, oh, it's a small town. I just asked the first person I saw. Is that normal? Like, if you live in a small town, let me know, because I feel like that's very weird for everyone to just know your address. But you know, a different dichotomy. There's like 20 people that live in your town, so maybe it's kind of easier to like know everybody's business. Stefan returns her diary because she had dropped it in the cemetery, and like she's like, oh, did you read it or something like that? And he's like, no, I wouldn't want anyone to read my diary. And now Elena's enthralled because he has a diary like the bar is in hell. So it cuts to the Grill, right? And Bonnie's there talking to Matt before Elena gets there. Matt's being like a lost puppy because he's like, oh, Elena had said that we were breaking up because she needs space to like deal with her trauma and stuff. But now is she with Stefan? Like, I saw the way that they were looking at each other. That's not your business. That is your ex-girlfriend. Please move on. And so, you know, he's real butthurt when Elena comes into the Grill with Stefan because she had invited him. And, you know, he's hurt. You know who else is a lost puppy? Caroline. Caroline was over here thirsting over Stefan, and like Stefan was not giving her the time of day. So after the Grill, it cuts to like a scene of Stefan back home at the Salvatore mansion, and like his uncle is talking about how, is this you bringing up like the newspaper article about what happened to the couple in the woods who were like allegedly mauled by an animal, but we all know it was a vampire? And he's like, no, that wasn't me. I don't do that. Now we know that it's like some other like mysterious bad guy lurking in the shadows. And while we're at the Salvatore mansion, Stefan's going through his stuff and he opens an old diary and he pulls out a picture, and it's of Catherine. And Catherine looks exactly like Elena. Like, not even on some like twin stuff, like there being subtle differences. No, they look exactly the same, because we will come to find out that they are doppelgangers. And that's what is drawing Stefan to Elena, because Elena is like a dead ringer for Catherine. And Catherine was his like love interest back in slavery times, like 1864, I'm pretty sure the picture said. So yeah, there's a lot of deep-seated history there. So after this, it cuts back to the history class. You know, the teacher's being like an a-hole towards Elena, talking about, oh yeah, I gave you like grace because of what happened, but you know, I can't do that forever. You need to get back on your stuff. Like, you're rude. I don't know how this show got away with so much Confederate stuff. I know it's in Virginia. I know. but it's just so apparent. And Bonnie's right there in that class. I know that Bonnie was sitting there hating every moment of this. After this little school scene, it cuts to the obligatory teen party that's in every single teen drama. And you know, Bonnie's kind of testing her like magic abilities because she doesn't really think that she's a witch, but you know, she's like, okay, let me like see if I can like do like a glass ball thing and see the future and stuff. And so she like touches Elena's hand and she ends up seeing crows in fog, that like the same thing that was happening to Elena in the cemetery. And Elena's kind of a little creeped out now because she's like, wait, that actually happened? So how are you able to see that? And here goes Stefan creeping up slowly on her, bro. You cannot do that to me. I'm sorry, this is a tangent, but like, I don't like it when people just be walking up on me or just like trying to like, even just trying to like get me to get scared by them like surprising me, because I'm the type of person that will jump every single time it jump scares. And like, if you do that to me, I'm not in control of what my limbs do when I react, because you might get smacked trying to walk up on me like that. But that's Elena's problem, not mine. While they're at the party, Elena starts telling Stefan the story of what happened to her parents, and they're kind of just like bonding over trauma. You know, it wouldn't be a teen pilot without an almost assault in the pilot. And so Tyler pretty much almost assaults Vicky in the forest, and like Jeremy like fights him off. And while Stefan and Elena are kind of just like bonding over their trauma, Stefan's eyes start flaring up. You know, he's starting to get a little hungry. Then while they're at the woods, Vicky gets attacked by the same animal that had attacked the couple. And before like Matt and everyone else finds out about this, Matt is down so bad, and so is Caroline. They are down like 1,000. Like, Matt still being a lost puppy over Elena, and then Caroline still trying to like throw herself at Stefan, and Stefan's like, it's not gonna happen. Little does he know it will happen eventually, but you gotta wait a few seasons, Caroline, so just be patient. So eventually Vicky's body gets found, and you know, she's been attacked, and it's only really centered on her neck. Like, she has like a pretty gruesome bite, if I do say so myself. Then, lo and behold, it is revealed that the person causing all this havoc in Mystic Falls, which is their like little small town, is none other than Damon Salvatore. Now, I have a lot of unpopular opinions about Damon. I know he's a fan favorite, guys. I know it. And I know that people love Damon and Elena together, but I don't. Just because Elena's so annoying, and I like Damon when he's in his bad boy arc. Like, I just don't like them together. And I will never forget that Damon was a Confederate soldier. Like, the show wanted me to forget about that, but I never did. I just want to know, because Damon was a Confederate soldier, I want to know if he ever got over racism. In all the time that he has spent on this planet, did he unlearn racism? Is that what he did with his time? Because I don't think so. Like, we don't get any sort of like retribution, never like him talking about it, that he fought for slavery. We just all are supposed to pretend that it didn't happen, but I remember it. I remembered it from the first time I saw him in that uniform. I never let him live that down, ever. And so basically, Damon's back in town because he wants to wreak havoc because Elena's there. So it cuts back to the party, and Bonnie's talking about, when I had like touched your hand, Elena, I felt like what happened to Vicky is only the beginning. Girl, you got a whole other thing coming. Like, if anyone didn't get any rest on this show, it was Bonnie. Like, she warning Elena. Girl, you need to be warning yourself. I'm sorry, this is not funny, but Damon was like, I promised you an eternity of misery. That is so petty. Like, it's the fact that they're vampires and they can like essentially live forever. An eternity of misery for what? Over Catherine? And then like later on, Caroline has this like undercover jealousy towards Elena, because she's like, why does like she get to do like nothing and guys just like love her when I try so hard and no one wants me? It's not funny, but it's like, girl, this is so misguided. Like, I don't understand why you put that on Elena, like, at all. So Vicky wakes up in the hospital, and like the only word she's able to say to Matt is vampire. And so then it cuts to Caroline. She's being sad at the grill, and here goes Damon, and you know, he's kind of like seducing her from afar. And Caroline is such, like, she's a stress character. At this point in the show, she's a stress character for me. Like, you know how you have comfort characters? She stressed me out. So the episode ends with Stefan going back over to Elena's house, and you know, Elena actually like invites him in, and they end up staying up all night talking. And I think her first mistake was ever letting him inside the house, because you know vampires can't come into the house without permission. She should have never done that. They need to be guarding their houses better. But that is the pilot episode of the Vampire Diaries. Now let me get into my thoughts about the show and the pilot. This show was the epitome of like teenage angst and like brooding guys. Like, I remember I talked about it in my Arrow video about how like Oliver Queen was like the broody, like billionaire playboy. Stefan was the blueprint for like any like brooding character. Like, he is the most like I'm very serious and character ever. And it was like so like in your face in this episode. And I think it's also because recently I've been rewatching Pretty Little Liars, even though I said you guys probably shouldn't rewatch it, but I'm doing it. And so I'm very in the heat of like all things like old teenage shows, and this show just like brings me back to that specific style of like older teenage dramas. Like I said before, the show really was a hate watch for me. I just wanted to know that it was over, and I was like watching it out of spite at one point. Like, I just wanted to like know that it was going to be over. I wanted to see how they got there. Like, I just wanted to know how they messed up their lives so much that they got to the point that they are. But, you know, there are some, like, plots and characters I like, you know, everybody loves Klaus. Everybody loves Klaus and Elijah. And the originals, like, their little plot line was the best, period. I don't think I've ever hated a protagonist like I hated Elena, ever. And it's so funny because everyone likes Catherine, like, generally, like, she has more like personality. Like, even if she is like a bad character and at most times she's an anti-hero at best, everyone liked her more. And it's so funny because it's like, oh my god, we hate Elena, but we like Catherine, or even love Catherine, and they're played by the same actress. So I think that's very good that Nina Dobrev was able to like create such different characters, because Elena is on a lot of people's hate lists. Now here's my unpopular opinion that I've been waiting to say. Bonnie and Damon should have ended up together. Period. There was no reason for them not to. And I know I talked about him being a Confederate soldier, but this is the plot line that they should have done to lead up to it, right? And this should have been early on in the show. Like season 1, season 2 type thing, where Damon like atones for his sins and is like, that was wrong. I wasn't like fighting for slavery. I was doing it for my family. I don't actually hate black people. And we see him go on this redemption arc, you know, trying to be anti-racist and all this stuff. And, you know, actually like gaining like good footing with people, and having it not be looming over his head the fact that he was a Confederate soldier. But I still will never forgive him for that. But setting that aside, I am a fan of enemies to lovers. Right? That's one of my favorite romantic tropes ever. And so Damon and Bonnie in the beginning were like enemies. Like, she hated him like so much. And then when they got stuck on what was that, the parallel universe like hellscape sort of thing, and they actually became friends, that could have so easily become a romantic relationship. But the people were racist. The writers, everyone involved was racist, and they treated Bonnie like trash, and they never let Bonnie be happy for more than 2 episodes. And I just think that they should have ended up together. I'm sorry, I'm not going back on that. Like, they really should have. They had more chemistry, and they were just more enticing. Bonnie deserved better. She was the heart of the show. She was even the heart of this pilot. She is such a light, and she deserves so much better, and that actress deserves so much better. In terms of like teen dramas, I guess this like pilot is pretty good, or at least decent, because it makes you want to like watch more. And they just jam-packed so much information in those 44 minutes. Like, that was actually a quick watch for me, which is like saying a lot. And you know, I generally enjoyed it. Will I rewatch it though? Probably not, because I don't like to bring in pain and suffering in my life when it's not needed. Also, I'm really glad that they abandoned that sort of like narration thing with the diaries and stuff, because it kind of got annoying really fast. So at least they knew what they were doing in that realm. This show ran for 8 seasons. Did it need to run for 8 seasons? Absolutely not. We could have known peace a lot earlier, but they hate us. So those are my thoughts on the pilot episode of the Vampire Diaries. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you were Team Stefan or Team Damon, or if you thought that Bonnie should have ended up with Damon, because I'm right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss a single upload. And unfortunately, this will be the end of an era, and I'm not talking about ending uploads. This will be the last time you are seeing this sort of background, this sort of setting. It breaks my heart, but you know, next video will be in a different place. So don't forget to stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one.